Tonight, this special edition of History Reenactments presents Inside Worchester vs. Georgia. The case began in 1832, where Samuel Worchester had begun to file the case on the state of Georgia. He believed that Georgia had violated his and his family's constitutional rights. The state had begun to force them out of the Indian Territory held by the Cherokees. Here's the footage of the case.
Here we are currently inside the Worcester vs. Georgia case trial and trying to get an exclusive interview with people involved inside this case. Mr. Worcester!
Yes, how may I help
What
you?
has Georgia done to you?
I feel that what they have done to me and my family is beyond inexcusable. The Georgian governor, Wilson Lumpkin, is going against every human right.
What human right is he violating?
His actions are unconstitutional and are against the acts of the federal government. The state has no jurisdiction to evict me out of my home in Cherokee land. It violates my 14th Amendment with the right to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. They have no rights to take my life away.
Now we would try to get another exclusive interview with the governor of Georgia. And here he comes. Mr. Governor, why do you think the verdict will go your way?
The state and I will win this case because President Andrews created the Indian Removal Act that was strictly supported and passed by Congress. It also gave us power to enforce laws that later required any non-Cherokee citizen to get a license from the state to live in Indian land.
Well, what does any of this have to do with Mr. Worcester?
Samuel Worcester was living on Indian land without license, so we were forced to arrest him for breaking the law. Then he began to believe that it was unconstitutional for us to force him to leave, but in actuality, he was breaking the law.
Thank you for waiting here for Mr. Grand Marshal to come in. And here comes Mr. John Marshall now.
Hello there.
Is Worcester right? Is this really unconstitutional?
I don't know, but I think that there's a point to be made that the Worcesters should not be forced out of their land because they were already there before the law was passed. But I'm going to have to hear both sides of the case before I can make an official decision.
Thank you, and good luck in there.
And at the trial, it became very disputed on both ends of the case.
Mr. Marshall, you should be supporting me. And the fact that the state has violated the Constitution. You know I am right.
I do not understand how you can be supporting this, Your Honor. He has broken the law many times. How can you support this?
But once John Marshall was ready to make his verdict, things got awfully quiet.
Your Honor.
Thank you. In the court case of Worcester versus Georgia, I rule in favor Mr. Samuel Worcester.
It's Worcester.
Mr. Samuel Rooster.
Governor Lumpkin, how would you feel about the verdict?
I don't agree with the verdict because how could you favor a criminal? There's no way this can be happening. I don't think Jackson would either. I don't think Jackson or I will like it either.
Oh,
Excuse me.
hey then. Worcester, how would you feel about the verdict? I suppose it went well?
Yes, I am glad to see that the state's actions were against the Constitution and that I can continue to live with the Cherokee Nation. John Marshall made an excellent decision to rule in my favor.
And there we have it. And now for the man who made the decision, John Marshall. What made you decide this verdict?
In this case, the state had violated Mr. Worcester's 14th Amendment, where it does not allow the state government to take away his rights. Only the federal government has the right to intervene in Indians' affairs. The state must give respect to all citizens, so the case therefore violated the Constitution. Thank you. From the commencement of our government, Congress has passed acts to regulate trade and intercourse with the Indians, which treat them as nations, respect their rights, and manifest a firm purpose to afford that protection which treaties stipulate. All these acts, and especially that of 1802, which is still in force, manifestly consider the several Indian nations as distinct political communities having territorial boundaries within their authority is exclusive and having a right to all the lands within those boundaries, which is not only acknowledged but guaranteed by the United States.
After the verdict was made,
This provided the due process that the state must protect the citizens' pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. It also created a sovereign nation for the Cherokees who were exempt from Georgia laws that surround them. Andrew Jackson said that in order for the government to support the decision of John Marshall. However, he never enforced the actual verdict from stopping the state of Georgia from still trying to push the natives and Worcester. Because of this, it led to a horrific time known as Trail of Tears, which was the continuation of the Indian removal process. Here the government forced the Cherokee Nation into such death walks to Oklahoma, causing many deaths as a result of the case of Worchester versus Georgia.